What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review, or rather an EP review for you. We figured we'd do one more bonus review since we're going to skedaddle off to Parts Unknown here next weekend. And this band we've actually covered before, and we figured why not check out what they got in terms of something new. So we are going to go over the latest EP from Heads for the Dead, In the Absence of Faith. This comes out also on the 1st of September on Pulverized Records. This band formed in 2017 in, well, let's see, UK, Germany, Sweden, and the US. This is an international band. Actually, I believe the main guy behind it, Johnny Peterson, who has been in a litany of bands. This was kind of his project that he kind of got together with a bunch of pals, and they wanted to do a very horror-themed death metal act, and well, it was a lot of fun. We went over their last one, The Great Conjuration, and it was just sort of like ridiculous, over-the-top death metal with lots of horror tropes. And that is exactly what we expected when you have current and former members of Revel in Flesh, Wombeth, and a more recent addition, Sentient Horror. So, yeah, our interest was pretty piqued, and I mean, overall, this is like very Swedish death metal. HM2 guitar tone, horror samples, over-the-top vocals, lots of horror tropes. In fact, the last track has a especially good one that I thought was really well done. The song Possession, it opens up with the Exorcist theme in terms of the pianos, and they do it really well. They actually kind of take that and then add some riffs to harmonize with it and build into the song, which is kind of a little bit more 80s flavor.
Yeah, I mean, just simply the Exorcist theme is covered by a death metal band. I mean, there you go. And I know we cut to the end right away, but we're going to go back to the beginning.
I was excited.
Yep. Opens up with Heart of Darkness, immediate galloping chug, and a D beat with some open chords. Now, something I noticed right off the bat is this was more of a turn to like mellow death. And even so, a more gothic mellow death.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on here, like especially on Heart of Darkness, that reminded me of like early Paradise Lost, like namely like the first two albums. Like there's a gothic dreariness, but there's also still that sort of raw heaviness. The vocals on here, I think, are once again fantastic. They're nice and over the top, very dramatic, very well enunciated, and done with some cool layering that adds a lot of cool effect to it. Actually, they create a lot of the atmosphere on here. You also get like good blackened screams and some whispers here and there. Definitely adds to the, spooky horror vibe. But yeah, going through this, I definitely noticed a bit of a shift to mellow death as well. Like, the next track, Taste of Terror, while it does have like more of a punky, crusty D beat to it, it's a little bit more fast and aggressive. The riffs don't necessarily sound as like dark and sinister all the time. There's like some more triumphant riffs that come up, especially on Self-Immolation and Fire, The God Forsaken. They definitely have some more ascending, triumphant melodies. The lead melodies on it kind of give it, kind of that mellow death folkiness.
But it does also get really heavy in spots. There's a little blasty section in The God Forsaken that reminds me a lot of Bloodbath.
Definitely Bloodbath.
And then Self-Immolation and Fire is the more straight death metal track. It's darker, it's heavier, it's what you would expect out of a more death metal band.
It definitely has like the most sinister vibe out of all this. Like, the vibe on this, I would say, again, gothic is really good. Melancholy also is sort of a vibe. Like, there's a sort of like, dismal sadness to some of this. But again, you get these like shifts to like more brutal material. Self-Immolation and Fire is definitely like the big heavy standout. The breakdown riffs are exceptionally punchy. And the dark, heavy tremolo riffs and blasts, like that is just flat out Bloodbath. But again, kind of mix that with like that melancholy vibe you would get from a band like Dark Tranquillity.
Also, really good lead work. My guess is it's done by the dude in Sentient Horror. I mean, I'm not 100%, but the leads are all really done tastefully on all of these tracks. Not a single one of these tracks is without lead work.
Oh yeah, really well done. Like shreddy, well phrased, some really good melodic tags, especially again with that whole harmonizing with the Exorcist theme on Possession. I think that's definitely a standout. But honestly, the solo on Self-Immolation and Fire is fucking fire. It's absolutely fire.
Oh.
Even though I think the song title's a little, redundant. Like, this isn't Self-Immolation. That's pretty much setting yourself on fire. You don't need to, like, how else are you going to immolate yourself?
I mean, I guess you could cut yourself while you're in fire, but you're already burning.
Yeah.
I don't know. None of that sounds fun to me, but, to each their own.
And I do think that the Godforsaken is interesting because it feels like it's a reference to a band that Peterson was in at one point, God's Forsaken. I don't know. It was just like a little close to home. It was just something I noticed. But this does have some issues. And, while I do like this band style, it's very straightforward, meat and potatoes, but with that sort of fun, atmospheric love of horror. It has creepy soundscapes and samples and definitely a lot of synths. There's something about the production on here that was kind of bothering both of us.
Yeah, the guitars seem muffled, almost to the point where they put a pillow over the speaker cabs. There's definitely good riffs, you just can't really hear them. And the synths, when you do hear them, the synths overpower those riffs.
Yeah, there are definitely some sections on here where, the synths just kind of come in a little too loud, like Taste of Terror towards the end. You get, it's a cool, creepy synth line, but it's one of those, it'd be kind of cooler if it was a little bit more in the back. And even on Heart of Darkness, there's some big gothic synths on there, but they start kind of blending into the guitar melody, and the guitars start becoming indistinct. I just feel like they were kind of squashed down in the mix. And, the vocals are also very out front on here, too. So that's two things kind of working against, something that should be, at least in my opinion, driving the songs.
Yeah, because they're definitely there. All these riffs are really good. They need to be just a little louder, just a little bit more present. The presence of it overall was missing.
Yeah. And while I like melodic death metal, and there's definitely touches of mellow death on the Great Conjuration and the other one that I own that I can't think of the name. I think In the Red, maybe. There's always been notes of it. They kind of have 1 foot in Gothenburg and 1 foot in Stockholm, and I know that's a really wide reach there. They're very limber. But I feel like this push more towards mellow death on here, it kind of misses the savagery. And with horror, I feel like you kind of need that sort of more entombed, bloodbath, dismember sort of thing going, because that matches up super well. I mean, if you don't believe me, just listen to Left Hand Path, and again, that Phantasm score worked in there. It's one of the coolest moments in death metal ever. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. And,
wow.
It is. Don't even argue. But, I don't know, with melodic death metal, it's a different vibe. It's, again, a little bit more triumphant. You get the more folky melodies, more ascending guitar patterns. So, I don't know, it doesn't quite mesh there for me. And again, while I think there are a lot of solid riffs on here, I do think it is maybe a little by the numbers at points. When this band is just kind of going off and really laying on a 6-section, it's awesome. Self-Immolation Fire. That's a killer song. The heavier sections in the Godforsaken, I think, are absolutely monstrous. And generally, if anything reminds me of Bloodbath, I end up loving it.
Yeah, it's an automatic win.
Yeah. But a lot of this, I feel, is a little meat and potatoes. Granted, not terrible. I don't think there's a flat-out bad track on here. But I do feel like it is missing a little bit of heft. And part of that, I think, is definitely due to the production in terms of just muffling those guitars. And the other part, I think, is maybe just a little too much mellow death in there for, again, the more horror vibes.
Yeah, for a band that's labeled as a death metal band, I understand pockets of mellow death. Tons and tons and tons of death metal bands have pockets of mellow death. But, in this one, it seems to be the more dominant driving force, mellow death over death metal. So, overall, I give this record 3 stars. It was good. I don't have any immediate gripes over production. The songs are very well laid out, very well put together, albeit a little meat and potatoes. They were still fun. I do think it's missing a little bit of that horror camp that they had in records prior. And I think that with some production tweaks, a lot of these songs would sound a lot heavier than they are presented, at least on the record. But overall, it's still 3 stars, a 3 out of 5. It was a good jam. I would check it out if I were you.
I'm going to go with a 3 as well. I like it. It kind of covers a lot of bases that I like. Again, production issues. I really wish those guitars had, a lot of bite. The leads cut through beautifully.
Yeah, they do.
The lead tone, I think, is absolutely fantastic. And there's, really solid riffs on here, but again, they're kind of buried. I would have liked to have seen, Melodeath used as more of a seasoning. The Great Conjuration was more like that. Melodeath sort of peppered in with a little bit of Death Doom. that worked out really well, and it wasn't the main thing all the time. Here, I think there's a little bit much of that, and it kind of sacrifices the flat-out death metal intensity that this band brings. Like, if you're a big fan of Bloodbath, again, like early Paradise Lost, early My Dying Bride, definitely some Hypocrisy in here too, check this band out. I think this one is a pretty solid EP. I definitely recommend the album before this. That was a fun, horror-soaked, blood-drenched, awesome fucking album with a great album cover as well. But yeah, overall, pretty solid stuff. So if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com, which will be opening relatively soon. Granted, still kind of closed, but there's a Patreon link on our channel. And when thrallsmetal.com opens up, we're going to have some shirts to show you, but we're also going to make an announcement here. It might not be us. It might actually be Miller doing the announcement, showing off the shirts, and introducing the rules for the giveaway. We are definitely going to do a giveaway. I just don't know how to structure it yet.
Yep. No one knows yet. Quite yet. But you'll see it soon. Also, we're promoting some shows for the area, mostly one as of the moment. Metal's making a return to Toledo. Frankie's, our hometown venue. Our CBGB's. It's not CBGB's, it's Frankie's. Anyway, you get the idea. They're bringing metal back to the area. We got Revocation, Unearth, Entheos, and High Command. $25, October 1st. Come out. Just come out. Just drive, get in your car, and go to Frankie's. If you're from Toledo, you already know where Frankie's is. Go there. If you're not from Toledo, get in your car and drive. We go to Detroit all the time. You should come to Toledo for a $25 show and Revocation on a stage that's very tiny. It's a very intimate venue.
It is.
You're probably going to meet the band. I don't know. I normally meet bands when I do it. Anyway, not important, but Thralls of Metal is promoting the show. Come out and enjoy that.
We apologize for the road construction, because you're going
to run into some road construction. You like orange barrels? You like that color? It's like prison orange barrels.
Yeah.
Tons of them everywhere.
The state is a fucking prison because we can't get out of it because of the fucking roads. Anyway, I'm going to go on a rant about that if I keep talking about it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit. Again, it means the world to us. It is amazing doing this. It is amazing seeing this channel grow. And we're looking forward to potentially running into some of you at Full Terror Assault. That is where we will be pretty much next weekend, just soaking up the blazing hot sun.
Yes.
It might cool down. Who fucking knows? It might rain. I don't know.
Typically when we go out of town for shows, at least there's a thunderstorm and a tornado. It happens a lot to us. But anyway, if you see us, come over and give us a high five or say hello or take a picture or whatever. We're pretty approachable people in spite of what you may see here.
No, seriously, thank you guys so much. And we will catch you later.